Great.
Great to have you here.
That's great.
Here in the Tishman Spire building,
Sure.
the Spiral here in Hudson Yards. It's great to have you here. What I'll do is just quickly do a read-in and then tell people who you are, a little bit about your background, and then we'll have a chit-chat.
Great.
Welcome to This Week in Coworking, where industry leaders get succinct, actionable insights.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the This Week in Coworking podcast feed. I am your host, Hector Kolonas, and today I am joined by Michael Aldridge. Michael, how are you?
Oh, good to meet you. Yeah, thank you.
Good to have you. Welcome to New York. I'm guessing it's not your first time?
No.
You come here often?
Quite a bit.
Great. Work or fun?
Well, in my previous life, in my first startup, I was working here, so I know it pretty well.
You know it pretty well. Let's dig into who you are.
Sure.
Right? From what I understand about your background, you grew up in the UK.
Yes.
You studied at Cambridge.
Yeah.
You then went off and became an accountant, chartered accountant.
Yeah.
After that, you dabbled a little bit in kind of family offices, private investing, that kind of stuff. But then in 2014-ish, you entered the world of co-working.
Yeah.
Tell us more about KOFISI and what it does.
Okay, great. I think the journey for me as an entrepreneur was, I was slightly disenfranchised by the way Europe was playing out around 2012. I started to look for what I thought were more interesting areas of the globe to operate from, and I thought about where is the most amount of change occurring. And in the research, what really I found compelling was the demographic statistics that were coming from Africa. When you look at the statistics now, by 2030, 1 in 3 people coming into the workforce will be in Africa, which means that if there are 3 people standing outside to get a job, 1 of them will be African, and that's not spin, that's mass, right? So that's millions of people coming in and requiring support. And if we're getting 1 in 3 people, we're also getting 1 in 3 dreams, we're getting 1 in 3 ideas, and ideas drive enterprise drives capital. So it was like, where's the next bounce going to be? And that led me to the idea of being able to provide the open road for the bicycles that are being provided in terms of the computers for the brain, as Steve Jobs would have said. The challenge for the African environment is the lack of primary infrastructure or secondary infrastructure, so the buildings and the workspaces, and a sort of general acceptance that standards didn't necessarily have to be as high as anywhere else. But when you can combine the infrastructure with the people, you can create some very dynamic. So when we started out, we spent a lot of time hunting around for the right mechanisms, and we really landed on our yellow brick road moment where we really knew the direction of travel, and that was to focus on enterprise solutions, really focus on the companies that were going to hire the people. And therefore that led us to specific points of difference in the way that we've grown.
That's awesome. And so you started the first one in Kenya.
Yep.
Back in 2014. What did the office market look like in Kenya in 2014?
Yeah, I think the office market was, the best way to kind of think about the African environment when I started was, it was like the 1980s in the UK, but with everyone having an iPhone. So there was a lot of technology in people's hands, but there wasn't the investment in the infrastructure, and more buildings were coming out of the ground. And we started, I think, like any business would, with a 10,000 square feet of space, providing a serviced office style solution. And we quickly got into second territory or country, moving into Tanzania, because we knew we wanted to be multi-market, because that's what we felt we were looking for. But it was a strange procurement environment, and definitely it didn't feel as robust as anywhere else to do this idea. I'd actually studied shared workspace models in London prior to moving to Africa. Not the WeWork model, we looked at some more enterprise solution models. And so we had a genesis of an idea when we first went there. But the real masterstroke for us came in around 2019. Actually, we have a great COVID story, but we actually really pivoted hard into the enterprise solution model. And then with that, what we believe to be a large part of our innovation, which is our hospitality-infused version of that. And by the time we got through COVID, we were then into the model we are now, which is large-scale, 80 to 100,000 square feet locations with large enterprise, providing them a customized product, surrounding that with a very engaging hospitality-driven service system.
Mm-hmm. Do you own your buildings? What is the real estate strategy?
The real estate strategy in Africa is different to probably other markets, largely because most buildings are privately owned. It's not a fund-driven environment. So we had to learn how to make that work without having landlord support. My journey's been a long one, over a decade, to build what we've done now. Part of the difficulty has been campaigning for the continent as well as campaigning for the product. So it was like two things we were trying to convince people for.
My question then is, you said the first two locations. Kenya, I'm guessing Nairobi.
Yep.
And then Tanzania.
Yep.
Where are you guys now?
Well, we're really delighted with the take-up of the kind of product we've put in place. We now have 800,000 square feet of space across 8 countries. We're one of just a couple of dozen businesses that operate in all 4 zones in Africa. We're present in Casablanca, Nairobi, Kigali, Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. We are partnered into Cape Town and Johannesburg, and we operate in Lagos. And we're opening now in Cairo, Accra, and we'd expect to see scale of 4 to 5 KOFISIs in each city over the next 3 to 4 years. The latest announcement by us is that we're now entering the Middle East. We're opening in our first location there.
And I believe that's following a recent funding round that you guys
Yes.
put together for
Yeah.
expansion.
Correct.
Congrats on that.
Thank you.
Great to see leverage. And I think a big part of that was also advocating for the continent.
Correct.
Positioning it as the future of work.
Correct.
That's 1/3 of it.
Correct.
A lot of folks who read the newsletter and in our industry don't hear enough out of the African continent.
Sure.
What do you think one of the biggest misconceptions about flex space in Africa would be?
I think you could focus on shared workspace, but it's really just one of the industries that gets misunderstood, because the reality of the play in Africa is the distance between the story that you're reading about and what's actually going on the ground. I spend a lot of time talking in events about the realities of what our business has been able to achieve on ground. We've grown 40% year on year for multiple years, and we're making things work and making things happen. It's not easy to do, and there are easier places to establish things, but it's the most undersupplied environment in the world when you think about the competition that exists, and it's fundamentally mispriced because the data is moving far faster than the capital. I mean, you have to look at the population dynamics again, almost in zip code terms. The world today is a 1-1-1-2. It's 1 billion Americans, 1 billion Europeans, 1 billion Africans, 2 billion Asian. It's going to move by 2080 to a 1-1-4-5.
Okay. Makes sense.
So the scale of that means you need the infrastructure to build it, but that fundamental mispricing of the data is really where the opportunity sits. And we have more demand for large scale enterprise work than the buildings that we have in play. And we're being quite measured in our growth.
Yeah. So you have raised capital, but I'm guessing you're being more strategic about when to open, where to open.
Correct.
One of the questions I have, especially from my family back home in South Africa, is how do spaces like yours prepare for a different working environment? There are things like load shedding in specific countries.
Yeah.
What did you have to do differently that maybe European operators who are looking at the African continent overlook?
So there's lots of different ways that people have entered the market. Our direction was through outsourcing. We were thinking about it as much more as like an outsourcing business. And so therefore we knew that we had to get the back of house to work really hard because we needed to solve all the issues. So really we went into it with such eyes wide open. We came in going, what are the main things that you'd struggle with if you did it yourself? And let's solve all of those. So, we have uninterrupted power in all our locations. We have super fast internet in all our locations. We were the first to give coffee for free in all our locations. And we really set a benchmark to say, we know where the direction of travel is for the continent. Let's go there now. Why are we waiting? We don't need to be on our back heels. We want to be on the front foot. It's a big value of KOFISI, is the idea that we will be on the front foot with all requirements. And that's what's led to the level of innovation that we've put in. Our latest building is 110,000 square feet in Nairobi. It has an extraordinary amount of innovation and sophistication to the building. It includes 2 F&B outlets, it includes a room service functionality. We have a 7,000 square foot gym, we have a cinema, we have even included now our first step into accommodation where we have 12 bedrooms,
Guest rooms.
guest rooms for people to stay. If you love work that much, you've got somewhere to stay. But as well as our hallmark products in terms of like our gather spaces for meetings and 2 double story club spaces. And it's the most, probably with all the technology we've put in and the service standards and the training we've done, in my mind, it's the most innovative piece of commercial real estate in sub-Saharan Africa. And it's full, right? So, you know, it's just a question of, if you continue to deliver a good product, clients will find you.
Yeah. And how are they finding you? Are they finding you online, direct? Are they coming through brokers? Are they coming and saying, we want a X-like product in Africa? What does that conversation look like?
Yeah, it comes in lots of different ways. The main thing for us is just continuing to do a good job. We're very proud of how low our attrition rates are. By nature of what we do, our contract lengths are substantial, and we just continue to win work. Most people come to us.
That's really interesting. And do you offer any on-demand options, meeting rooms, bookable by the public, day passes, day offices, anything like that? Or is it strictly a focus on enterprise and kind of more long-term flex?
Yeah, 95% of our revenue comes from long-term enterprise clients. We encourage use where we can from external parties just to create a much wider engagement with the community, which is a big part of our business model, is to think in a sort of generative way for the social benefits that we can deliver as a function of having a flag in the city. But it's not a huge part of our business.
You did mention you have this hospitality concierge-like service. Is that a revenue driver, or is it just baked into the enterprise contract?
It's what we think is the answer to a better workday experience. We have 3 rules that we operate to. The first is that we want to create the best workday possible. And we believe that through this hotelified module, offering engaged services and supportive and stimulating environments, it is the way forward. And I think the most successful buildings in the world are emulating that, because that's really what it's about. But it's highly serviced. I mean, this is not just a lounge.
Yep.
This is, we have on average 100 people working in a KOFISI.
Oh, okay.
Right?
High staff.
That's high staff. So it's much more like a hotel in that way. Our second rule is we have to think about the most generative way to deliver that for step 1, because we believe that we're building the scaffolding for the future, for the continent. So we have an obligation to do things in the right way.
And sustainable.
And exactly, sustainability. But for me, we think about more in the ESG story, we think about the super S, because the societal part of that journey is a big theme for us. Job creation, job enhancement, training, really standards, right? That's where we believe we're really adding the value. And of course, our third rule is that we want to do that with the most commercial thinking, which leads to the strongest commercial outputs, as in profit, because profit is proof that the model can be sustainable.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we've seen it a lot. I mean, I've been in the industry just as long as you have. Launched my first co-working space in 2013, and I've seen so many great community-focused, sustainable, eco-friendly spaces absolutely not think about profitability. Thinking about, it's going to be great, everyone's going to support it, but then if you haven't got the revenues coming in, you can't invest in innovation, you can't invest in your people, you can't invest in expansion, and the expansion is where you get the economies of scale. So we are sitting here in New York talking about Africa. Any plans to come over to this side of the world?
I think we've got a lot to do where we are. There's some plans we have, but they're a little further out. I think we've got a lot to do in the continent, and I believe that KOFISI's innovative approach will put us in good stead for either further continental expansion or even laddering into some interesting services that could sit very nicely next to what we're doing. But in terms of bringing it full circle, as an entrepreneur, it's my third venture. You learn that the more focused you are, the more success comes. And so supplying enterprise contracts in Africa is our core.
Yep. So I'm going to bring it home then. With regards to Africa, we definitely don't cover them enough on the global newsletter that we put together.
We have to change that.
You have to change that. We will change that together.
Yeah.
But even more importantly, is we can start doing that.
Yeah.
Who are other leading African voices that we should be listening for and featuring more from across the continent?
In terms of providers, in terms of interesting brands or companies?
Like in our industry.
Oh, okay.
Providers, vendors, people that you love working with or working near or competing with.
Well, as you know, we've got a really great partnership with Workshop 17 in South Africa, and I think between the two of us, we're the leaders in this sort of premium form of workspace solution. It's certainly the largest network across the market in this continent. Now we've entered the Middle East, there's a different group of people that we're getting to learn and know. The African workspace industry is probably at the extreme ends of where the situation sits, because you've got a lot of demand for incubation and the original co-working product, and there's a lot of access to capital for certain types of real estate owners that are able to get these things going quite quickly. So it's quite fragmented in that way. And then the other end is the enterprise solution model, which, you know, there isn't too much that's the same as KOFISI. Yeah. But there are some great providers in each market. I think suppliers to market is very interesting. I mean, 75% of our interiors are made locally. We won in 2024 the Interior Design Award for Workspace from the UK for SBID. That was great because it was as much a nod to local capacity, because we don't import all our stuff from the Middle East or China or Asia. The interior design supply is taking some time for us to be able to generate, and it's part of our generative system. But the sort of more sort of sexy plugins is harder to procure. Like, we were the first to bring Office R&D in, we were the first to bring Zoho in. And that's because obviously we come from an international mindset, but I think there's a big opportunity for that in the market.
Yep. So we'll do our best to connect all sides of that, to tell more stories about Africa.
Yeah.
I believe we're going to start seeing more in real life stuff happening, bringing the global world to Africa. But I want to thank you for taking the time out of this trip and for telling the world about what you guys are doing and for all that you do for the local economies.
Yeah, that's great.
It's a pleasure to have you here. I look forward to telling more of your story.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.